Hello and welcome to another edition of Personal Health and Fitness. I'm your host, Chad Marshik. My program today is on core movements, and the core is something that we all need to work on, whether we're athletes or whether we're somebody who happens to be sitting in a chair most of our lives. You've got to work your core effectively. Your core happens to be your abdominal musculature and your hips primarily. One of the things that people need to keep in mind when working their core is that they're not limited by doing simple crunches on the ground, whether it's on the ground with a Swiss ball or simply on the floor. You've got all kinds of tools at your disposal. You can use a Swiss ball, you can use a BOSU. This is a BOSU. You can use a body bar, you can use dumbbells, you can use a medicine ball, you can use exercise tubing. You've got a host of different things that you can use. But what's cool about the core is that anytime we move, it activates the core musculature. And I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty as far as the anatomy of the body and the biomechanics of every little movement that you do, but I'm going to share with you some basic information, things that people need to be aware of when they're working their core if they want to do it, first and foremost, safely, and secondly, if you want it to be effective, okay? So today I thought I'd share with you some basic core movements with some simple tools like dumbbells, and then we'll progress to maybe doing some more advanced exercises with exercise tubing and pieces of equipment like a body bar. And I'll show you how you can use that effectively when you're training your core. So again, don't limit yourself rather by just floor exercises. You can do all kinds of things on your feet as well. A real typical 3 exercise routine that I like to have a lot of people do is simply warm up with a light pair of dumbbells when they're training their core. All right, you don't have to use too heavy of a weight when you do this, but these 3 movements basically warm your body up in all 3 planes of movement. So you're going to activate your hips and your shoulders, all right, and as well as your core. So the first exercise you're going to do is a crossover punch. And the crossover punch, you just hold the dumbbells out in front of you and you're going to cross and pivot. All right, if you look at my feet here, I'm actually releasing my heels and allowing my body to rotate, or my feet to pivot and rotate. It's going to give me a little bit more hip mobility and shoulder mobility if I release my feet. I typically don't count reps when I'm doing this warm-up drill. Maybe I'll have somebody do this for 30 seconds. But again, if you see your body rotating here, it's different than simply just doing a basic crunch because you're moving in 2 different planes primarily. The frontal plane, which is rotation, all right? Excuse me, that's the transverse plane, and the frontal plane, which is kind of a side-to-side movement pattern, right? The next one here is a reach over, and this is using your hips and your shoulders as well. You've got the real small muscles in your pelvis that are also working the floor of your pelvis, and this is more of a frontal plane movement. When I go side to side here, or laterally, I'm reaching over my body. You see what it looks like from the side? Again, just reach over your head. Almost like you're trying to scratch the other side of your head, the opposite arm. Kick out those hips. Again, about 30 seconds for this. All right, and the third exercise with the dumbbells is the uppercut. And if you look here, how I'm moving, I'm not really extending my arms. I'm more kind of thrusting my belly button forward and leaning back slightly. Leaning back. This is going to kind of provide a pre-stretch to my abdominals. Every time I lean backwards, my abdominals have to lengthen from the pelvis up, all right? When you're on the floor, most people are concerned about bringing their shoulders down towards their pelvis. Your body works also eccentrically or lengthens. And what I'm trying to do here is lengthen my abdominals by leaning back slightly. Totally different. Don't just simply be concerned with shortening your muscles in your core. You have to lengthen them too. So those 3 drills, the uppercut, the crossover punch, and the reach over. All right, if I want to get a little more aggressive, I can use a body bar here. This weighs about 15 pounds. Body bars come from anywhere between 5 pounds all the way up to 30 to 40 pounds. It's just a padded weighted bar. All right. The body bar, a little more vigorous, and this is just a body bar reach or a body bar punch, and again, I can use this bar and go in different planes. So from the side, I like to think of myself in a kung fu movie when I'm using a body bar, like I'm trying to whack somebody. Whack, whack. You can even go up. A little bit different movement. Again, I'm leaning back slightly, and then I'm rotating here. So I've got everything working together in my whole body. Your body's kind of like a symphony. You've got all kinds of muscles that are either stabilizing or acting as prime movers, or decelerators, or accelerators. All right, and I can even bring it over my head. Kind of like a windmill. Could even punch down or come up. Sky's the limit with a body bar, so you can get all kinds of different movement patterns that's going to address all your core needs. All right, next I'm going to show you how to do some staggered stance medicine ball rotations. I work with a lot of people that either sit at a desk or I have a lot of surgeons that I actually work with. Most of those individuals have problems with their middle back, all right, middle back and their neck. This is a good way to not only stimulate your core musculature, but also to mobilize your middle back, your thoracic spine, and your cervical spine. All right, if you ever get kind of limited rotation in your neck, you notice you can't turn right or left if you're driving a car, and so many people that I see driving, my grandmother's one of those individuals, and other people that I work with that are maybe in their late 50s, early 60s, cannot turn and look over their shoulder to the right or the left. They may be limited by maybe as much as 50%, maybe turning 45 degrees to the left or the right. They have to turn their whole body to look to the right or the left. Some of that has to do with the fact that they're restricted in their middle back and or their cervical region, all right? So this exercise is great to address your core as well as your middle back and your cervical region. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to stretch or get my body moving beneath my neck, all right? So if I turn to my left or my right, I'm turning my neck. Now what I'm going to show you here is that I'm moving my body here beneath my neck. All right, so I'm getting a stretch here in my neck even though I'm looking straight ahead. Plus I'm going to get this big time in my middle back. If you look to the side, how I rotate, and I try to look straight ahead. Again, I may do this for as much as 30 seconds. I'm going to bring the ball to the midline of my body. I'm going to stagger my feet for starters, about hip width. Hold the ball in front of my body, chest level, all right, and turn to my left and or my right. If I have my left foot forward, the ball is going to move to my left. If I have my right foot forward, obviously to the right. Try to keep those elbows straight. That's what it looks like from the side. So I get a nice mid-back stretch. Good core movement moving to my left here. So my abdominals, my obliques, intercostals, my core stabilizers are really working hard too. And plus, again, I get that nice cervical rotation. Even though my head was not moving, my shoulders are moving beneath my neck. So I get a really nice cervical stretch. All right, the next exercise that I really like for people, which lengthens their abdominals from the ground up, and not from the top down like you're on the floor and you're bringing your shoulders down towards your pelvis. But for this one, we're lengthening our abdominals. And a lot of people have really, obviously bad posture. I've talked about bad posture on this program for the last 10 plus years. But you can do something about it. Not just by doing abdominal crunches on the floor, which oftentimes when you're shortening your abdominal muscles, it tends to bring your torso down towards your hips. So your shoulders eventually come down towards your hips because your abdominals really become stiff, all right? They lose their elasticity and their pliability. So this is a good way to stretch your abdominal muscles. Again, that eccentric load or that lengthening, which is your muscles either shorten, stabilize, or lengthen. Okay, and this is the lengthening movement. So you're going to start with your feet pointed straight ahead, about hip width apart. You can hold either a dumbbell. If you don't have a medicine ball, you can hold a dumbbell. 3-pound, 5-pound dumbbells, fine. This is a 10-pound medicine ball. I'm going to place the ball in front of me, about knee level, and then I'm going to take the ball over my head. If I were to actually throw the ball backwards to maybe a partner behind me, how would I do that? I would release it. You want to keep your elbows fairly straight. They should be slightly unlocked. And again, tip that ball or bring the ball back up over your head like you're leaning backwards. This is what it looks like from the side. You've got a little bit of a balance challenge with this exercise. What's also good about this exercise is that it really works at lengthening your psoas, your hip flexors. A lot of people are very tight and restricted in that area, and this is a good dynamic stretch that isn't a static stretch where you're just holding it, say on the ground or standing, doing something like this, pushing your hips forward. All right, but it involves movement. Dynamic means movement. If I want to make this a little bit more challenging, I can take a box and place it beneath me, rather on the ground. I'm going to use a Bosu. Put my foot here on the middle of the Bosu, my other foot in front. And again, you want to take a fairly big stride, not so big that you lose your balance, but a big enough stride that when you go backwards with the ball or the weight, it's going to give you a nice stretch in your abs and in your hips here. So when I elevate my foot on either a box, say a 12-inch or 8-inch box, or on a Bosu, which is maybe about 8 inches off the ground, it's going to provide a little bit more of a stretch here in my hip, and I'm going to get a little bit more lengthening effect through my abdominal musculature, again from my pelvis up. And this is what it looks like, the Bosu. Again, you've got a little bit more of a balance challenge because my foot's on the Bosu, especially when I go back, I've got to stabilize a little bit harder. That's what it looks like, straight on. This is great if you're tight in your lats and your shoulders as well. A lot of bang for your buck with that particular exercise, that reverse wood chop. Get a really nice lengthening effect here. Helps to mobilize my thoracic spine. So many people are walking around like this. To get your shoulders back, sometimes you have to mobilize that area, and that's just a really basic dynamic exercise you can do to help mobilize your thoracic spine, get a nice lengthening effect through your abdominals. Okay. All right, next we're going to do a few basic floor movements. A lot of people are on the floor doing core exercises. Nothing wrong with that. And I'll show you something a little bit different. I'll show you, actually, I'll give you a couple of different variations as far as difficulty level. You probably have, maybe you've done this exercise, or maybe you've watched somebody do it, but the plank or the floor hover like this, that's great, fine and dandy. But there's another one that's a little bit different. It's a sideline floor hover. If you're somebody that's doesn't happen to be too strong, you can actually do this several different ways. You can lie on your side and cross your feet like so. All right? Place your elbow directly underneath your shoulder with your forearm straight, and you're going to just lift your hips. Again, a lot of people don't have good core stability, especially in the sideline position. You can do this by simply bending your knees, and you have less weight to support. Now, if I want to make that a little bit harder, I can place my feet here and then lift my body off the ground and hold that, keeping my head straight. You can place your one foot over the other foot, or if you want, if you don't feel too stable there, you can place your feet in a staggered position. Each foot's actually on the ground, and then lift up. If you want to make this harder yet, the next progression, one foot on the ground, one foot up in the air, then lift and hold. Again, you can do that for a series of repetitions, or you can drop your hips down and up, like so, down and up. A lot of different variations. Another really cool variation is using a dumbbell, where I'm going to actually reach through, and I'll do this in a couple of different angles so you can see how I'm positioned. But I may want to reach through with the weight. It's just a 3-pound dumbbell. Reach through, it's going to involve a little bit of rotation, and then I'm going to bring the weight up over my head, or excuse me, directly over my shoulder. If you really wanted to get crazy, you could have one foot up in the air, then reach through. Much harder. So again, the sideline position. Hopefully this angle's a little bit better. You can see again, this is how you would do it. Or your feet here, or one up, or reaching through. In several different variations. Okay, next on the list, we're going to do some exercises with the foam roller. What a great tool. If you don't have a foam roller, they're cheap, 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 cheap. Get online and buy one. Do all kinds of things with them. Since this is about core movements, though, I'm going to show you some real basic core exercises you can do. The foam roller, both the march and the low ab extension are, if you've ever done any type of lower abdominal extensions or bicycle movements on your back, the foam roller provides a little bit more instability. And because it's an unstable apparatus, you've got more muscles firing in your core region. They're going to make make this a little bit more challenging. What's also cool about the foam roller, it really helps people to iron out any muscle imbalances that they have in their core. So because it's unstable, it forces you to position your body in such a way that you have to do it properly, otherwise you lose balance because it is unstable. You're going to lie on your back, your head at one end. I'm about 6'1", so anybody much taller, it might be a little bit more difficult to use this. Place your head at one end, your tailbone at the other end. You're going to press your hands into the floor. You can place both knees directly over your pelvis. All right, keep your feet slightly parted. And you can see here, if you watch carefully, that I'm a little unstable here. I'm a little wobbly. Well, I've got to engage my abdominal musculature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my belly button in towards my spine and up towards my sternum. Those two things, in towards my spine, up towards my sternum. Envision somebody actually coming up to jack you in the stomach. All right, that's going to give you a good visual, hopefully, of how to maintain good position and good stability on the foam roller. So you're engaging your abdominal muscles. Then you're going to extend one leg at a time, slowly. You can vary the amplitude here. If you want to do this fast, you can, as long as you're able to keep your balance, or you can do it slow and methodical like so. But ideally, you want to try to keep your entire spinal column in alignment or on the foam roller. So draw your belly button again in hard. Make sure that you don't have a gap in your lower back and or your mid back. And then alternate extending each leg. Each heel in the down position or the out position should be just a couple of inches away from the floor. Don't leave your legs up in the air like so. And my hands are just to the side of each hip. Okay, that's the lower ab extension. The next one is the march. And the march is done, again, on your back. But what's cool about this one is that it really forces you to maintain your balance while on the foam roller because your hands are going to be off the floor. So my hands are off the floor across my chest. My feet are going to be aligned with my hips. All right? Foot alignment is absolutely critical. So make sure that you align your feet properly. Your feet should be in alignment directly underneath your knee, and heel should be aligned with your butt. Okay? Cross your arms over your chest, and then you're going to engage your abdominal musculature by flattening your back, drawing your belly button in towards your spine and up towards your sternum. Close that gap off in your lower back, and then lift one foot off the ground. Some of you may roll right off. That's okay. Get back on. Chances are you've got some muscle imbalances, but with practice and time, you'll be able to work through them and become better at this. Lift the other foot. Hold that for about a 3 count. Ideally, you want to try to keep your heels aligned with your hips. All right? Don't let your foot go in or out, because that's going to throw your balance off and won't help iron out any of those muscle imbalances. So lift up, hold it. You can see I'm rolling around a little bit. This is hard. Hold it for about a 5 count. If you want to get a little funky here, you can straighten one leg. If you want to make it a little harder, reach up towards the sky. Doesn't look like much, but I guarantee you, I've taken people who thought they were really super strong, throw them on here, and they fall right off. So don't let this fool you. It's very tough, very challenging, really works the floor of the pelvis quite effectively. Okay, next I'm going to show you how you can use exercise tubing for some real basic movements. I'm not sure, I don't think we have a ton of time left. But I'm going to show you how this works here. I'm going to need my camera person, Jesse. Why don't you come over here and hold this. Jesse's going to hold the tubing for me at one end. You need a partner. You can actually tie this off onto something, a fixed piece of equipment if you want to. Jesse's going to hold that. And I'm going to stand here and I'm going to move laterally to my left, all right? And what I want to do is kind of get in a monster walk position where I'm in an athletic stance, keeping my hands in alignment with my sternum. So elbows have to be straight. And then just walk slowly to my left, then I'm going to decelerate that. Don't go back quickly to your starting position. Again, keep your feet pointed straight ahead, your arms straight in front of you. Again, in alignment with your sternum. And you're just going to move back and forth. So you're working your core stabilizers here in a dynamic fashion, which means, again, talked about it at the beginning of the program, movement. Make sure you do both sides. Thanks, Jesse. Okay, the next one. The next tubing trick or exercise for your core. You're going to take the tubing. This is a little bit more dynamic. This is called a tubing stabilization shuffle. So you're going to tie the tubing off to about, shoulder level or slightly below, to something that, again, that's fixed piece of equipment that's not going to move. You're going to take the tubing, you're going to bring it out, again, in alignment with my sternum here. I'm going to interlace my fingers, clasp the handle here. Then I'm going to shuffle my feet, all right? Each foot's going to move. One's going to move forward, one's going to move backwards in a shuffling fashion. This is typically done for time, say maybe 20 seconds. But if you notice my feet, when I switch my feet in midair, I'm actually in midair. Nothing's in contact with the ground. Makes it a lot harder to stabilize because the tubing's wanting to pull me back to its base of support. So my core stabilizers have to decelerate the momentum of the tubing, kind of trying to slingshot me back to where it's fixed. I can make it more difficult or change in the pattern of movement by shuffling my foot from outside to inside or inside to outside. So I'm going to take one foot, is going to hop up and down. The other foot's going to come across to the midline of my body, like so. It's kind of a pattern, a rhythm that you have to get into. So you're going to hold it, stabilize. Very difficult, but really effective. Great exercise. in different tubing strengths. If that's too difficult for you, then maybe use another piece of tubing. All right, you've got all kinds of different tubing strengths. Something really light, or if you want to go up to something really thick and really heavy, which is going to make it much more challenging. So depending on your fitness level, try to match the tubing with your level of fitness. Same thing with a medicine ball, same thing with a body bar, same thing with a dumbbell. Only use the amount of weight that you can handle for the desired number of reps and or time under tension, however long it takes you to perform that exercise. All right, don't try to do something where you're going to hurt yourself. So check your ego at the door and use what is safe. All right. If you have any questions about what we do here at Body Symmetry, feel free to give us a call anytime at 793-9972. Check out our website at bodysymmetry.com. Again, we've got a great new website, video-based website. We have hundreds of videos. We're working on it right now, trying to make it better, shoring it up, called freefitnessvideos.com. We're going to have the ability to create your own exercise programs, video-based exercise programs, or text/picture-based exercise program. That's going to be awesome. We're going to have hundreds of different circuit exercises that you can do, so it's free. There's no excuse to not to be able to go out there and find good information that can help you achieve the level of fitness that you desire. Thanks again for joining me on another edition of Personal Health and Fitness. Until next time, I'm your host, Chad Marshik. Hey, Quinn and Riley.